Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. You guys, this is going to be a groundbreaking show tonight. I've got Helena Cavan in a totally different role that she's going to just knock your socks off. But first, I want to let you know that the Spirit-Centered Business Tribe Facebook group is available for you to join, and we have conversations over there. And then we also have Tribe Talk, where we meet on Zoom on Tuesdays if you need someone in your life who just gets it, right? Sometimes we just can't have conversations with everybody around us as far as what we're doing, stepping into the deeper things of God. And so we just need a safe place where people will get us. It's kind of like, I think about Tom Hanks in Castaway, like he needed Wilson, right? Sometimes you just need a Wilson to talk to. So that's what Tribe Talk is all about. That's on Tuesdays, and you can find out more information in the SCB Tribe Facebook group. So go ahead and go over there. Now, what Helena is showing us today has so much to do with frequency and sound and how the universe is really constructed. And part of the way that Spirit-Centered Business originally was, from when I started it back in the beginning, is the three-way alignment. Your head and your heart, you got internal alignment, you've got your alignment with God and his plans for you and for his business and for your business. And then the horizontal alignment, I always thought of as understanding how the universe really works and communicating with others, but using spiritual principles so that we're not fighting against things, we're working with them. And so what Elena's going to bring to the table today is really this new revelation on how the spirit realm really works. And this is just so cool, Helena. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm really excited to be sharing with you, and thank you for making space in your diary for me today, because the story went live today and timing is crucial. So today is the 11th of March, 2021. And I know this won't be broadcast today, but we are recording and talking about it today, and today's the day. And honestly, I couldn't get to sleep last night because I was so excited, and I was just like, oh, I was so excited. And then I had to wake up really early for work this morning, and it was just like, oh. So, and today, throughout the day, it's like, this is the best day of my life, you know? So it's really exciting to be sharing the best day of my life with you all today.
Oh, that's so cool. And actually tomorrow's my birthday, so it's kind of
Is it? Oh, happy birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, why don't you share with people a little bit about your bio that they don't know? Because most people associate you with Livebusters, but there's a whole other side to Helena. You were on Spirit-Centered Business, oh gosh, over a year ago now. But refresh people's memory on that bio bit that they need to know to set up what you're going to share.
Sure. So it's quite interesting because I'm writing my book at the moment called Free People, Free People. And I realized that my life has been in kind of three chunks. And the first part of my professional life, I was working as a musician. And then the next part, I was working in a residential detox, juice and raw food detox retreat center, and then in Livebusters. And all three have been all present throughout, because I've always loved health, and that was part of my life when I was a composer. And Livebusters was being developed through our married life for the last 28 years. So there's this thing about integration that's happening today, right now in my life, which just is so exciting, because I think that is the model that we're headed towards, where our lives aren't compartmentalized, and our giftings and talents are not compartmentalized either, but we're showing up in the fullness of ourselves all the time. And we modify our language depending on who we're speaking to and what we're speaking about. But the fullness of myself is full of the allness of God all the time. And so that's what I'm kind of being and communicating. So in the first, well, really up until 2015, I was working as a musician, and I trained at the Royal Academy of Music in music composition, so classical music training. And I started my degree at the University, Western Washington University in Washington, and then University of Washington. Then I met and married Jonathan, and I came to the UK in 1996. So it was a long journey for me to get my degree, but in that process, I met a lot of fantastic and beautiful people that I'm still connected to today. So then I'll just share my screen with you. We were having a local festival, and a concert pianist came to me and said, "Hey, Helena, you write poetry. Would you please do a concert with me? Because I would like to do a proper piano concert, but I don't want to be an accompanist." And normally classical musicians, classical pianists end up being in an accompany role if they share a concert with someone. So what I did is I wrote words inspired by the music, and then we went to concert together. And it was really successful because it was words and music as one, just like the poster says here. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it because I had started life in my earliest years as a poet, and it was like coming full circle. But because I had an understanding of music from the inside out, I think that I had a way of feeling and communicating the music that was different. Mm-hmm. And so if people knew the piece, then it gave them an augmented experience of that piece. Or if they didn't know the piece of music, it just gave them a frame of reference through which to enter and experience the piece. So it kind of just made the music a bit more maybe accessible. Not that it needed anything, because it's amazing music. So that was really fun. And that just opened one door to another, because at that concert, there was a manager of a National Trust property. And National Trust is the umbrella organization that looks after all of our historic and important places in the UK. So it's not just buildings, it's land, it's places, it's situations. And so if someone dies and they want the public to have access to their house or land or whatever, they can leave it to the National Trust, and then it becomes in the public domain. So the National Trust, this manager was like, "Oh, Helena, we're celebrating 20 years of the garden. Would you come and can I commission you to write poetry inspired by the garden? And then we can put it up and exhibit it throughout the garden." So I just began to do all of these really cool commission projects, and they just came flooding in one after another on the back of this concert. So then in 2015, 2017 was probably the first international water conference that Jonathan and I attended, wearing my musician's hat. And what happened is that I really had to die to myself and die to ego, because I think that I had aligned my identity to being a composer and to being a musician. And I had met some of the most talented and fantastic people in the world, and just this ego thing, really. And then when our lives kind of imploded and came inside out, because Jonathan lost his vision and he folded up his software company and life would never be the same again, it was like everything that was attached to anything that wasn't God just had to go, and it just died. And I literally had to put aside all of my creative work in order to start a new business and get on with it. And it was a very painful death, because it was a bit like Isaac on the altar. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. I don't know if I'm ever going to see this again, but I know that I have to let it go. And it's just that beautiful experience of the seed dying in order for the new shoot to grow. But God has his timing for germination. So the seeds are always there, but it's his fingers on the pulse as to when things germinate and when they're going to sprout and when they're going to grow. And so for me, it was like, the last 5 years have been all about learning business and learning other lessons. And then it's like, okay, you've learned them. Now you can come full circle back to the creative work, because you're coming at it in a fuller sense of self. And it's really amazing because I don't have that identity and ego and stuff is attached to it anymore. It's just like you were saying about this flow. It's a horizontal kind of position. So I met this scientist at the water conference who does this amazing work. And I'm like, oh, that is so cool. And he's like, yeah, one of the things that we do is if you send me a sound file of you saying your name, then I will put it into my Cymoscope machine and I'll share it with you. I'll make a Cymoglyph. So this picture here, I chose the coloration for it because I made this into my company Christmas card for the last 2 years. But this is a picture of me saying my voice. And what I like about this picture is to me, it's very floral. And it's like these antinodes around the circle are like petals. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's me. Because I adore flowers. Like I'm flower absolutely raving mad. And my garden is just like everything to me. And as soon as I just knew that was me.
So this is you saying Elena.
This is me saying Helena. And so what they do, and I'll show you the instrument in a minute, but he feeds that sound into his Cymoscope, and then the Cymoscope, I'll explain in just a second, makes this image. So bringing us up to the excitement of today, at this time, so in 2012, 13, 14, I was doing some work for a foundation in the west of England. And Herefordshire is one of our least populated counties in England. And it's renowned for having more orchards per capita than any other county in England. And a lot of those orchards grow cider apples. So in England, the word cider is for hard cider. So that's alcoholic apple juice, where in America, cider is an apple juice without alcohol.
Yeah.
So in Herefordshire, there are several cider companies. So that's hard cider companies. And they were started like in the 1850s. And one of the companies was called the Bulmer Company. And Bulmer cider is a very, very old British brand of cider. So maybe 10, 15 years ago, they sold out to a global corporation called Heineken. And when they did that, they set up a foundation to kind of perpetuate the good work of the Bulmer brothers in the community. So over the years, I've done quite a lot of work for them as a composer, because they did a lot of work with the disabled people and the disabled schools in Herefordshire. And so I would come in and do projects with them. So for example, I would set up a musical experience in an orchard. So each tree was a musical station. So the young people could go and they could, make music in the orchard with the simple things that I set out for them. Or another time this was really challenging and fun. I did a music session for paraplegics. And in preparation for it, I'm like, Lord, how do we do this? And he immediately showed me those, those colored little whistles in the shape of a bird. They're plastic.
Yeah.
They come in yellow and red and blue and whatnot. You put water in them. And I thought, well, all of them have to breathe. So we could put one of those whistles in each one of the paraplegics' mouth. And when they exhale, they will make music. They will blow through that whistle and they'll make a sound. And that was great fun. It was crazy. It was awesome. And all of that was taking place undercover in the barn on the orchard. So anyway, so I've done some really fun work with them. And anyway, so at the end of January, the man who does the commissioning got in touch and he said, hey, Helena, we're launching a new project I want to involve you, and I want to tell you about it. I'm like, yay. And so we had a conversation, and he said, you know, we're publishing a new Apple story every month on our website, and we have some groundbreaking science that Italian scientists have done on the Apple genome in Italy. And it's a kind of sciencey story. So I'm thinking it would be fun to illustrate it with art. Could you make a piece of music that has the apple crunch in it? So I'm thinking, yeah, Nathan, my son, is sitting in the room on the chair next to me. And Nathan is like a genius at sound manipulation and isolation. And he's just like king of digital. Wow. And I'm a composer, and he's now at art school. So Nathan, my son, is in his first year of art at Central St. Martin's in London, which is one of the best art schools in the world. And so this would be a wonderful opportunity for me to apprentice him in fulfilling and going through the whole process of a professional art commission. So I said to the commissioner, I'm like, yes, I can totally do that. And then it was like immediately I saw the picture of the Cymoglyph that I just showed you. And I said, well, what would even be better is instead of just having the audio, let's have a really cool visual to go with the 1 minute of music that we create. Uh-huh. So I said, I know a scientist and he has the Cymoscope, and I can send him the crunch file, and let's see what that looks like. So he's like, yay, that's a great idea, Helena. So that was what we decided the project would be. So I called up the scientist and I'm like, hey, John, I've got a project for you. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, that's really cool. That's never been done before, Helena. He said, one day somebody sent me the sound file of a snail eating a carrot. So this lady had gotten a really good recording of that little nibbles of the little snail eating the carrot. And she sent that to John to put through his Cymoscope. And he said, what was fascinating about that is that we got the whole of the mouth of the slug, the tongue of the slug. Like there was a lot of visual information in that sound file. So I'm kind of thinking that we're going to have a lot of visual information about the apple in that crunch sound file. And so then he's like, you know what would be really cool is if I juice an apple fresh, because he's got a good juicer. So if I juice the apple and then I put the apple juice into the cuvette of the Cymoscope, and then we beam or we connect the apple crunch sound to the apple juice, I wonder what would happen then. John, this is so cool. Like this is so cool. And you see, Bralynn, the most important question that any creative person can ask, which is every human being on this planet, is this: I wonder what would happen if. Because those are the questions that lead to the discoveries that none of us ever imagined. But they always start with that, I wonder what would happen if we did it this way or that way or whatever.
Right. And isn't that the way any problem is ever solved?
Yes, it is.
Right. Yeah.
It is. You know, Einstein said, give me any problem. I'll spend the first 45 minutes working out the right question to ask. And then I'll spend the last 15 minutes answering the question. So it's always about, asking the right question.
That is so brilliant.
Yes.
I never knew that Einstein said that, but that's kind of the process that I work through to discover exactly who you're supposed to serve. Like what problem do you really solve in your business? Yes. So good. All right.
Yes. And if someone comes to you with an idea like this commissioner had, it's like, how can we make the apple crunch interesting? It's an audio sound. How can we do this? And so it was really his invention, because he was the one who was asking that who had that problem that was searching for an answer. And so it was like, this is an audio problem, so I'm going to go to a composer to find a solution. So John began to run his studies, and he started sending me the images, and he's like, Helena, look what I'm finding. I'm like, oh my word, this is crazy awesome. And this is beyond the scope of the commission. So I said, look, why don't we go back and have a Zoom meeting with the commissioner and show him the other stuff that you're finding and see what he can do for that. So we had an awesome meeting with Nathan, the scientist, myself, and the commissioner. And we talked about all of this information that was coming out. And the commissioner was like, okay, right, what we need to do is stick to our story for Nathan and Helena, and we're going to open up a new journal entry for you so you can present the work that you have discovered. So it was like, yay, because it started with a scientific report, choosing art to illustrate it, then involving science again to help illustrate the art, but then that reinforms the science, because what John discovered through putting the apple crunch to the apple juice actually goes full circle back to the original papers of the apple stories, which I'll show you in just a second on the website.
Wow.
So anyway, so we actually turned this thing around in 3 weeks. It didn't take us a long time. We didn't have a long time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'll do is I will now share my screen so that we can all see. And I do encourage you all to go to applesandpeople.org.uk and check out their website, because what they're doing is they are telling the global apple story. And that might not sound very interesting to you, but actually apples have a key role in all of our lives in every country in the world.
Let's just repeat that website again. And also thank you to Tina, because she will make sure that it's in the show notes. So
oh, thank you, Tina. Absolutely. So it's applesandpeople.org.uk.
Perfect.
But you'll see it because I'm going to share the screen now.
Okay.
So so it all started with this scientist named Nicola Bussato in Italy, and he sequenced the apple's genome genetic code. And this is what it looks like with color. So
Wow.
You have all these greens and these reds and a few of the blues. And he talks about how difficult it was to sequence the apple genome, because it has 57,386 genes, more than twice the number in the human genome.
Wow.
Okay? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to understand the genome of the apple so that when they're creating new varieties of apple, they can make sure that the apple has maximum crunch, because we all associate crunchiness to freshness and juiciness. So none of us like to kind of bite into a pithy, soggy apple. We want a crunchy apple, because that, to us, that means it's fresh and that it's juicy and sweet. And the fact that the apple's been stored for 2 years is, by and by, it's got to still be crunchy when it gets in our hand. And so that's what the scientists are really trying to crack right now, is what are the genomes of the crunch of the apple?
Can you come back a second to that it's part of the human story in every culture?
So apples are all around the world. And basically it starts here with this map. So this website commissioned an artist named Helen Mann to make an apple world map. And on this map, it's of the whole world, as you can see, and it has 46 different stories from around the world about the apple. And what's cool about this web page is that it has a magnifying glass. So, you can go over each little place and it tells you the story. So last month it was the Cézanne famously painted apples. And this month it's the complete genome of the apples in Italy. So it has a line there from Italy down to the genome. Okay? So this is rooted in telling a global story about the apple, and they're going to be releasing one story a month over the next 46 months, because this was originally going to be a physical exhibition, but they weren't able to do that because of lockdown. So the second thing that they're really going for in the genome study of the apple is understanding the coloration. So when David came to me with the commission, he's like, Helena, can you do something to do with the coloration of the apple and the crunch? And I'm like, yes. And so these are the different kind of crunch profiles for the different apples that the scientists did. And as you look at that, it's like, oh, that's not that interesting actually. But this is our image. And so what happened here is that John the scientist sped up the apple crunch on water 5%, and he came up with this beautiful image. And then Nathan colored it, inspired by the genomic sequence, so that you get the greens, the blues, and the golds of the different apples. But what's interesting about this picture is that as you look around the edges of it, it's like crowns.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
And John the scientist, he interpreted it more like seeds.
Oh.
But actually, as I looked at it, to me, they are like crowns. Do you know? There's this kind of emergence, and it's just so beautiful. So Nathan and I then composed our piece. And so if you scroll down a little bit more, and I won't press it on Zoom because music doesn't come across very well on Zoom. So you'll have to go and watch it yourself because it's really awesome. But what Nathan did with the video, oh my word, like he exceeded himself. When John and I saw this video, I'm like, how on earth did you do that, Nathan? Because he made it come alive. So instead of just looking at this still image with sound behind it, he made the image come to life. And it's just such an awesome piece of work. And I had said to him, I said, Nathan, I said, remember that this work is sitting alongside the work of one of China's foremost and famous contemporary artists right now. So you have an opportunity here to put your art next to a really famous, successful artist. So, you know, give it your best, pull out all the stops. So anyway, then over here, if you go to the journal page, so we are on the story page. Okay, so this is the story, and we're the story of the month. So the piece is called the Crunch Coda, because coda is a musical term for repeating material that has already come before. And in this piece, we only use 3 letters to reflect the genomic sequence, which is A, C, and G. So the piece is constructed out of only 3 notes on the piano, and we use the T for transposition. And so that's the kind of composition aspect of it. But if you come over to the journal page of the website, this is where John tells his story. So on the journal page, you'll see the beautiful paintings of Meng Xitian, who is this Apple Planet Chinese artist. And I'll just show you very briefly his work. I mean, look at these. They are intense. They are so beautiful, and they're huge. Look at them. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And look at them on exhibition. Here, look at that.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? That's from 2015. And all he does is, he just paints apples. Okay, so that's his, that's that journal. That was last month's journal. So this is us, and this is the holographic properties of the apple crunch. So this is the Cymoglyph that Nathan colored. And as you can see, the crowns going all around the image.
They also look like people, like a whole bunch of people holding hands.
Yeah, they do. Like one of those paper chains. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very, it's just, it's mesmerizing to just look at it. So this is how one of their images comes through as they photograph it. So you can take the image and color it however you like. So say you, Bralynn, wanted your signature in a Cymoglyph, then you could choose how you wanted it colored and what kind of background you wanted. If you wanted a black background or a white background, I mean, you can choose everything, but you have the image there. So this image is speeded up 5%. And so John tells his story, and this is where we get really groovy about frequency, because John tells his story about how he went into the Great Pyramid and he put a membrane on top of the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid. And he put a membrane on it, he put sound on it, then he used an oscillator, as you can see there, to put sound into the sarcophagus, and then watched what happened on top as a hieroglyph formed on the surface of the sarcophagus. And
wow,
this is the hieroglyphs began to emerge in the sand. Oh, this is the hieroglyph for protection. That's it. Okay.
So just to explain it, he put the membrane over the sarcophagus and then sprinkled the sand on it and then put the vibration, and that's what it came out.
Correct.
To look like.
Correct.
That's so amazing.
Correct. Because here's the picture of the sarcophagus, and it's largely quartz. So remember, quartz is what's used in radios.
Oh, yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah.
And so he knew that it would be resonant because he is an acoustic scientist. So that kind of really got him on his journey. But then he says, I began experimenting with liquid membranes since the surface tension of liquids are highly sensitive to vibrations. I tried many different liquids, including Scotch whiskey, which at least held the advantage that I could take a sip afterwards. But it didn't provide optimal results. And after trials, I just found that pure water was an ideal revealing medium. So he uses medical grade distilled water in his Cymoscope. So here is the Cymoscope. And you can buy one of these from him, and a lot of universities and scientific research centers have bought them. And basically, can you see in the center here, this is the crystal cuvette. So this is where the water, or in this case, the apple juice is put. And then he hangs his camera up here. So the lens is directly over the cuvette. And then this is the computer that is wired into the metal that holds the cuvette, so that any frequency or sound can be put into the metal holder of the crystal cuvette, which will then resonate the water. Does that make sense? So it's a very, very precise but very simple kind of instrument. So this is the apple crunch on water. And he points out, notice the tree ring, the concentric circles that resemble the tree rings of a tree. So, you know, if you cut a tree in half and you look at the tree rings and that, it's very similar. And he was saying it's the high frequency data that's being revealed there. This is speeded up. So this is the one that Nathan colored for our project. And then this one gets very exciting because this is the one on the apple juice. So, you know, if you cut an apple horizontally, you have the 5 seed tendrils in a pentagon shape. And as you see here, can you see my pointer?
Yes, I can.
Here is a 2-fold pentagon. So on the inside, you've got that pentagon there, and then you have another pentagon there. And then you have the beautiful softened heart shape of the apple right there.
Okay, so let me just see if I am explaining this correctly. So in the vial, what did you call it? The
cuvette, C-U-V, cuvette right here.
So in that is apple juice.
Correct.
And then play the apple crunch.
Correct.
And then that's the image. Oh, it just all points to how amazing God created the universe. I mean,
it does. Like
oh
like we have never before been able to holographically, which means 3D. So you see sand only showing 1D. It's not showing what's underneath the structure. But what the Cymoscope is able to do is take the information right the way through. So what's really amazing about this is that it's showing us that impregnated in sound is a lot of information about the thing that generated or created the sound, which just means that there's a lot of information in sound that is not just about being audible. So it's like, wow, just imagine, I wonder if Adam and Eve could see sound. I wonder if they could see when the birds were singing. I wonder if they were able to see, the bird song, the shapes that, and what does God see when he hears, when we speak or when a bird sings? How does God experience sound? Because he is able to go into any dimension at any time and experience everything within the thing itself. So think how much fun it would be, how much pleasure God gets at experiencing his creation in all of its multiple forms. Oh, there I am, eating the apple. So what happened then is that John and his son James then made a really cool video where I did the voiceover and they explain what I've just kind of briefly shared. So I definitely encourage all of you to go to this, the journal page of applesandpeoples.org.uk and really look at this because it's so, so interesting.
Yeah.
So now I thought it would be fun if I just showed you Cymoscope. So this is John Stewart Reid's YouTube channel. And over Christmas, they did a huge Cymoscope installation in Times Square, New York, where they took a poem that was to honoring the New York's health workers, and they put it to the Cymoscope and created a beautiful video. So it's definitely worth watching that. But then they decided to translate it into multiple language. So then you get to see the same words in multiple languages and the shapes that the different languages make of the word.
Wow.
So that was a really cool project they did. Then they did this Beethoven tribute, which is amazing. I'll show you a little bit. They've created the Cymoscope app. So if this is up your street, you definitely want to download the Cymoscope app. And this is where John's giving a demonstration of the Cymoscope app. And basically you can touch any note on this circular keyboard and it will show you the pattern that the note makes. So here's a video, The Beauty of 12 Piano Notes Made Visible on Cymoscope. And it just shows you how the image transforms as the volume diminishes. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing how the visual changes as the audio changes. And one of my favorite ones is this Debussy. And this is where he's just taking each note and illustrating it. I should take it to the beginning actually, because it's a little bit clearer when it's not moving. And you see how each one has its own pattern.
Yes. So, this is really hitting me, Helena, because my mandate is to release voices that have been held captive by fear and doubt. And this is really showing how important it is that we each have our own unique voice print in the universe, and our story has to be told. This is so good. I mean, this
absolutely. And what's so fun about this is that James, John's son, is the one who chose the colors. So like I showed you on the web page, the way that they look is like this black and blue. That's how they start life. And then it's really up to the illustrator as to how to how to illustrate them. So I definitely encourage people. This is that you wanted to talk about the science versus music of Nigel Stanford. There's another interesting video on cymatics and Cymoscope.
Yeah, I love that.
So what's cool about what John's doing is he's doing work with art, and then he's doing work with science. And to me, that makes my heart sing, because I'm into both. Like with the detox hat, I wear the science. And so the last thing I wanted to share was that last night, my son Nathan, for the first time, created an album for me on my website. So this is my HelenaCavan.com website. And he created this album, which you can listen to, and you can either buy it or you can just go on and listen to it with your headphones. So anyone who goes on their smartphone, if you go to HelenaCavan.com, listen to this with your headphones on. The first track, Nathan got the piano music a bit too loud, so it's not brilliant. But if you keep listening, there are about 6 tracks, and the piano music is so phenomenal because it's done by a friend of mine. So this, in my website, these are all of the commissions that I've done over the years. But what I'm so passionate about is the concert poetry. And this is what I started in 2011. And I had a local illustrator who illustrated the poems for me. And then I worked with a professional actress, and she read the poems. And so one of the pieces on that album on the front page that Nathan made last night is called La Campanella. And it's a piece by Liszt, and it's a haiku. So it's this grand building we have locally, and embedded in the middle of the piece is just these few words of the illustrating La Campanella. And then I do the Flight of the Bumblebee and this Hungarian Rhapsody. And these are like pieces by Liszt, and they are so difficult to perform.
Yes.
And it's just so much fun. So I have all these recordings that people can listen to for free, because since they were commissions, I can freely share that. And then another one that's dear to my heart is The Mother and Child. And this is on the album as well, Dilly Keeps Searching for the Perfect Blue. And this is just Elena's sense of humor, because there's that song Lavender Blue, Lavender Blue, Dilly Dilly Lavender Green. It's a British folk song. And anyway, so it's kind of my take on that. But this was for a Mother's Day concert that I did. And again, really beautiful, beautiful piano music. And these are just stories from my life. And so anyway, there's a lot of content there for people to enjoy. And really, it's just food for the soul. It's just, to make life happier, because it feels nice.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was a violist. So I played viola. And
no, I didn't know that you were a viola player.
What was that?
I didn't know you were a viola player.
Yes, and actually quite accomplished. I went to St. Olaf for music, and I'm sorry, I have a dog barking. I've, never really gotten into the music theory or anything like that. And I didn't take it past college, but, it was fun while it lasted. I can say I had my moment,
Yeah. Well, what would be great is if you could get together with a group of worshipers and get your instrument out, tune it up, and just see what happens when you're in a room with a group of worshipers. Because I think you would find freedom and you would find your voice. So when I was teaching piano for 20 years, and that's what I would do is I would just, before I ever showed anyone any manuscript paper, I always would bring them to the keyboard, and for weeks I would just get them familiar and comfortable and finding their voice using all of the registers of the piano, and using their every part of their body to engage and find the physicality of themselves with the sounds. And music is a lot more than just what's on the page, although what's on the page is great.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Wow. And so can you speak a little bit, because I know that I've got a lot of creatives who have these amazing gifts, and they're really not understanding how to monetize that. Can you talk a little bit how you're doing that?
It always comes down to relationships. It's always about who you know. Because nowadays there are gazillions of very brilliant people, and I'm sure you're brilliant too. So everyone has their brilliance. And of course, you have to believe in your brilliance. You have to put in your 10,000 hours to, hone your craft and be good at it. But once you've honed your craft, you're good at it and you have a passion for it, then it's like, well, okay, so how do I put this out into the world? And actually, it comes down to energy, because what everybody wants is energy. And if you have a certain kind of energy that they like, that makes them feel good, it's just like, oh, I want some of that energy. And so what we're all actually bringing to each other and bringing to the table is our energy. And so it's like, I would say that my energy is just very much an open yes. So he came to me, he's like, Helena, could you do something like Apple Cruncher music? I'm like, yeah. No.
How much yes and figure out how later, right?
Exactly. So again, going back to what you were saying, whose problems are we solving? And innovation always happens when you bring something from one sector into another sector that has never been done before. And I'm sure I've talked about this on your show before, but a simple example is my sister's dentist in Wenatchee, Washington, decided that he was going to do a teddy bear picnic once a year and invite all of the children to a teddy bear's picnic in the dentist office. So of course, all of the kids want to come to the teddy bear's picnic. And what happens? He knows if he gets all of the kids in the dentist practice, then the parents will come and he'll have them for life. And so what did he do? He brought hospitality into dentistry. And with that came innovation, and he grew his business. Mm-hmm. So it's like whenever we bring something from another sector into our own. So art shouldn't stay in the art sector. Art should go into every sector. So in this case, art is informing science, science is informing art. So what we're doing here is we're merging art and science. So the 13th to the 15th of March next week is the British Science Week. And this story is going to be a part of the British Science Week. So I'm really excited because I'm not a scientist, I'm an artist. But this is where two sectors are coming together. So it's about thinking laterally, what applications and how can what I do illustrate what somebody else is doing and make it even better? Because that's when we bring glory to somebody else through making their work bigger, better. Like Carolyn was talking about somebody's barn, like they commissioned her to do a mural on their barn. Well, they have the barn, but she's going to make it better. So that's it, really.
Yeah, that's good. And we had a Jonathan coming, don't mind that man behind the curtain moment back there.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it was pretty funny.
I know. We've got to go on our Facebook Live in 5 minutes. So yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we will end this then. Thank you so much, Helena. That was just fascinating. Just amazing.
I hope so. Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me share, because it's really cool, isn't it?
It's exciting. It's really exciting. It's something that, out of the norm,
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking today, it's like, oh, I can't wait to get back to the stage. Like, I can't wait to do concerts again, and I really look forward, because we have local festivals and things, and I do concerts and festivals, and it's like, oh, I can't wait for that, that part of normal life to come back again, because Zoom doesn't do music well. So it's hard to do, it's hard to do concerts. So anyway.
Right. I understand.
God bless you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for looking, and definitely give us your feedback. And
Thank you very much. Okay, you guys, make sure that you check out the show notes for all of those links below. Join the Spirit Centered Business Tribe on Facebook so that we can stay connected. And until next time, stay Spirit Centered. Peace out.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.